For your countries and counted your dead in the factories and mills, in the shipyards and mines. We've often been told to keep up with the times, but our skills are not needed. They've streamlined the job, and with slide rule and stopwatch our blind they'll rob die. But when the sky darkens and the prospect is war, who's given a gun and then pushed to the fore and expected to die for the land of our birth, though we've never owned one handful of earth?
Well, I'll open it out to the floor for any questions, comments, discussion. The floor is yours.
Well, that's hopeful. We can go in then.
Gordon?
I was quite struck by your contribution, Dick, and one of the more better elements that I've seen of political meetings was with the Chile Solidarity Campaign or the anti-apartheid movement, where they managed to mix music, rhetoric, poetry in a way that actually was liberating. And the STUC kind of had an attempt at that with its arts policy in the 70s. Right. You know, and do you think that we need a revival of that again? Because the movement needs all the tools that it can get to its hands to actually advance. And I feel that I actually agree with you that we've neglected that. And how do you think we can revive that?
I think it'd be a great idea for the STUC to reinstate the post of arts officer again. However, having said that, there is often a tendency to try and initiate a bureaucratic solution to problems. I'm a musician, for God's sake. I'm innately suspicious of anybody who has a bureaucratic function within the arts. Like, the world at the moment is top heavy with people who've got degrees in art administration, you know, and who are not creative in any way. The post, when it was initially set up, I think worked largely due to the personality of Alec Clark and Alec's experience as General Secretary of Equity, or Scottish Secretary for Equity. He had a lot of experience, and apart from anything else, Alec was a singer himself, you know, and he would be likely to give you a song at the drop of a hat. So I think Alec's personality played a large part in making it a success in the early stages. It's something I would like to see it, yes, I would like to see an arts officer there. I would like to see every single trade union in Great Britain having an arts officer and an arts policy. But so long as the theory is a prelude to practice, as always, you know, like there are so many of these things that it's too easy to get into position. Well, somebody comes in as, inverted commas, arts officer, and they bring in all their own tastes and prejudices and all the rest of it. And so if they look and they say, young kids sitting playing the fiddle up in Stornoway is not really what I see as being arts in this. And so what we need more theatre, or we need more opera and all that. And we fall into all the traps that I was trying to outline earlier on in my fairly incoherent meanderings about it. But it's a difficult question. It's difficult to know what the solution to it is. You know, I suppose we can only try and improve. But for so long as we tend to see the arts in terms of, well, we need an administrator to help facilitate these things. If we get trapped in that too heavily, then we lose the spontaneous creativity that that's a necessary thing for artists. And it can stifle it rather than anything else. And then it can become, unless we're very careful, it can become a harvesting or distribution for funds. You know, so you get all the unions to contribute to the arts fund, and the arts officer then distributes that in subsidies to, you know, and that is not what is needed. It needs to be something much more organic than that. It needs to be something which is coming out of the movement itself, rather than something which has been imposed upon the movement just for the sake of it. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. No, it does, because I mean, it kind of changes on with the stuff that happened in Chile with the New Song movement and that as well.
That's right.
You know, because that was actually grassroots coming up. you know, and then it's kind of how you facilitate that as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's interesting to compare that new song movement in Chile with the protest song thing in America. You know, you get people like Victor Jara and Pilar de Parra and all these people who were very conscious of what they were doing. You know, they were very conscious of what they were doing was building music which was working class and was allied with the working class and was progressive. And Victor Jara has some very interesting things to say about the whole protest thing in America. And I can't remember them verbatim, but they're in Joan Jara's book, Victor, An Unfinished Song, where there is some of Victor's discussion about it. What he said, in essence, what he said was the protest song movement. What he said was that capitalist business has been very quick to recognise the innate spirit of rebellion of young people. And so therefore, out of this protesting, it promoted certain elements of the whole protest movement and created superstars of protest. And what he said about it and his predictions as to where it would go, they were absolutely spot on. You know, he was very clear about it.
Yeah.
Good question and good answer. Anyone else want to contribute? You're welcome. You don't have to know anything about anything. Yes.
I could come in here just to say that what Dick's just said struck a chord with me from the first meeting in this series where we had Dave McClellan talking about the early days of 784, which would have been 1970, 71, 72. And that defied all the existing procedures. It went out, got rid of all the bureaucracy and went round to minders' welfares and went round to community halls. And later, when it became established and it had a large paraphernalia and baggage and staff, it then became enmeshed in getting grants and had to censor itself.
That's right, because I was there with them at that time.
Yeah, of course. And just to say, obviously, we're in the beginnings of an immense crisis at the moment, which will likely go on for several years. And it's how, as you say, new organic links can be established between artists like yourself and that movement and the forms that it takes. Obviously, the students' movement, but there will be other movements of public sector workers and others that haven't yet, and communities, and the embedding in communities, which was so important in 784. And of course, they did make the link, and they did ask the question why and what you can do.
It was an exciting time at that time in 780. I was in them at the period you're talking about, with the corruption, not corruption, but the decadence had set in. And it's interesting that in itself was a repetition of what happened with Theatre Workshop when McCall had been with Theatre Workshop, Ewan McCall and Howard Gurney and all those people. And the offer came up of the permanent home theatre in Stratford East. And John Littlewood and some of the others were in favour of taking this, you know, it'll give us a permanent base, we'll be able to build on it and all the rest of it. And Ewan's position at that point is what caused the split in Theatre Workshop, was that Ewan's argument was, as soon as you set up a permanent theatre in Stratford East, you will become a feeding ground for the West End, for West End theatre. And they all poo-pooed it, but Ewan was proved absolutely right, because within about 10 years, that's what Theatre Workshop had become. It had become a feeding ground for bourgeois theatre in the West End. And it is that contradiction. Where do we find the balance between that, between support for the arts and encouragement, and the coalescing into, or congealing, I would put it, into structures that become more important than the work itself? It is somewhere there has to be a balance. But where is it? And I don't know. I don't know what it is. My instinctive reaction always is against making things too formalised and too structured, because they are restrictive. You know, as John was saying about something before, you get into a position where you make grants available, and so I've seen it happen to too many things. Theatre companies and film companies, where we started doing radical work, and then, well, in order to continue with this and expand, we have to get grants. And so in order to get grants, we have to tone this down a wee bit and modify our stance on that a wee bit or otherwise to make it. So you end up making things acceptable to the funding bodies, exactly as John was saying.
But the challenge then there too is is really about what you were talking about earlier, Dick, which is about supporting the artists. Making it possible for the artists to be artists and to carry on what they're doing. So that I think we really are talking about something very new and very creative that has to happen.
I'm sure there is a way for us to do it, but it's how to maintain the kind of anarchic almost nature of artists within the movement, so that the movement can accommodate that.
Yeah. Right. Anyone else want to chip in?
Well, as I was going to say, I think in the 70s there was a kind of bit more organic approach to doing things, and now things are much more formulated in a way than they were probably back when in the 70s at that time. And I was also remembering there's one band I've seen a lot is Seize the Day. If you spent time in the south of England, you can tend to see them almost every festival.
Yeah.
And I really like them, but after a while of seeing them, I've noticed myself feeling cynical. I'm like, gee, there's no hope when you listen to them. It's like, and some of the songs really do inspire you. You want to go and smash up planes and things. It's inspiring. But on the other hand, it's a bit like, is that really where it's at? Part of me then sat back and detached myself from it and thought, I hear the same rhetoric, and actually, instead of actually really feeling moved after, more over time, I actually feel a bit, I'm not sure. Maybe that's to do with me, or maybe it is the way they approach with a more anarchist style as well.
I think possibly that relates back to what I was saying when I quoted the two bits of songs from Woody Guthrie and One Clean Sting. That there's a place for sloganising, there's a place for straightforward propaganda, but there's also, I think, more durable and more important is the necessity for analysis and understanding and proposing that whole thing of lifting people. Not necessarily lifting people going Maggie, Maggie, out, but lifting people intellectually and emotionally and spiritually.
Beyond propaganda.
Beyond propaganda. Propaganda is great for the time. When if you're in a march and or a rally or a picket line, you need songs that are just pure propaganda that you can shout and scream and let off. But in the longer term, we're talking about art coming out of the working class. It needs more than that. We need to create forms which are analytical, which are intellectual, like those two things that I quoted, that are going beyond sloganising and presenting the idea of human beings and human society, what the relationships between each other are, how we relate to society, how society relates to the individual. And those kind of things, like that idea of digging coal with your hands and lighting cities. That's a huge leap. And in something the last place you expect it, Sting up there doing it, and suddenly out of his song, here comes this concept, and it's a very, very progressive, advanced concept that's distilled into 2 lines, and people hear that, and they may not sit down and realise that it has affected them, but that will affect people. It will affect people's concepts.
Yes, you wanted to come in.
No, I was just thinking of a song by people like the Black Eyed Peas that's quite, I thought was quite consciousness raising, like Where Is the Love, which is really about the power of some powerful organisations in America and how they use that. And then I was thinking about the punk movement and then, like Robbie Burns and people like that. And then how you can maybe mobilise music to help young people kind of vocalise their angst they've got and the helplessness that people feel now.
I have to say something, and that's not just because there are people in the room who it's about, but there is a wonderful organisation in Edinburgh called Protest and Harmony, which meets monthly. There are people, as it happens, several people, including some of its leaders who are in the room, and just, the kind of music that you were talking about, I think has been very often written by some of the people in that group and sung in places where it was absolutely appropriate to do that. So, Eileen, speaking of which, Eileen, you wanted to say something?
There's a lot in what Dick says, and it's really the tip of the iceberg, I think. And it's a great way to kick off a discussion on all this, and I was interested in what the comment at the front was saying about the STUC and the Arts Officer. Maybe what they need is for the 21st century and all the things that are happening politically at the moment is a new songs project or something, which can get support from the STUC and can bring together a lot of things to do with song at the moment, because there really is actually a lot of organic things happening in song and political song at the moment, in Glasgow and Edinburgh and Dundee and other places. It's got bugger all to do with the big society, by the way. It's just about people coming together because we want songs to sing that are optimistic, that are political, that talk about what's happening. And Liz is right to talk about, to mention protest and harmony. And there's quite a few of us here tonight that go along once a month for 3 hours on a Saturday morning and learn songs to sing at marches, but also to perform in the street or in concerts. And we sing alternative carols at Christmas time on Rose Street and collect money for the campaign against the arms trade. We were out singing there earlier on, and Buy Nothing Day. Does anyone know about Buy Nothing Day? Anyway, they were out singing there outside Harvey Nicks. All that sort of stuff's going on. You've got Mary Deitch Choir in Glasgow, and you've got loads of women singing in Dundee and all that kind of thing. So there is a lot happening. I guess what Dick's coming from the angle that he's a professional musician and a brilliant professional musician, and a great hero for a lot of us because of the songs that he sings. But there's the commercial side of music, isn't there? So political songs not necessarily that commercial, although a lot of the record companies and society at large sometimes buy these young people over that get into certain kinds of music like punk or rap or whatever, and they maybe started out as really quite political, but kind of somehow get amalgamated into the general, middle of the road music or just music. So I don't know, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but there's just so much in there, and the whole thing about political song and the Woody Guthries and the Victor Harris and the Billy Braggs, these are people whose names that we all know, and people that have passed on like Phil Oakes and stuff. But there is so much. The reason Protest and Harmony, in fact, got started was because there was people who wanted more songs to sing on the march. They wanted to be uplifted, because singing is not just about sloganising, although that's a bit of it, but it's about feeling uplifted. It's about finding a voice, collectively finding your voice and singing really strong, powerful words. But anyway, people wanted more songs to sing, and so a woman called Jane Schoenfeld, who Liz knows, who leads a group called Harmonise, set up a workshop to do political song, and there was all these people came along, loads and loads of people came, so they did another workshop, and again loads and loads of people came along. So now it's a permanent thing, and we meet once a month. There's been Wildfire Choir in Edinburgh as well, who started off with songs of struggle and freedom. They've kind of changed a bit now, but they still do quite political, women's stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on in singing, but I would be interested to think that the STUC might be able to revive some kind of arts thing, because, as you all know that are sitting here, the struggles that are ahead of us from this, since the election in May, are massive. They want to do away with the state, they want to do away with everything that we have known. So I think we're going to need a lot of songs to sing.
So I just wanted to point out that what's happening next door is the Edinburgh Choral Union is rehearsing. So
they're not singing the red flag.
They certainly are not.
I mean, thanks a lot for that. There was a hell of a lot in that. And one thing in particular, which was people like me, as professionals, are often unaware of what's happening at ground level in a lot of places. And I think if we have a place within that, it's to be, as, for want of a better expression, to be standard bearers. To be out there, shown by example, if you like, not in a position of leadership or vanguardism or anything, but just as a public face of it, that is maybe across the years built up a reputation, like myself. And it is vitally, what you're talking about is vitally important, because that is where the real movement is going to come from. People like me are in a different position. I say that, we're almost like mercenaries, but hopefully going out there and reaching people Because most of the time I sing to audiences. I mean, this is delightful being able to sit in a room with a bunch of lefty troublemakers and talk. You know, because most of the time I'm up there on a concert platform singing to people who are vaguely, a lot of them are vaguely discontented with the world, but they don't know why. You know, and not terribly politically sophisticated people. So if there can be across the country groups like the one you're talking about, starting up and establishing it and getting people singing, the whole thing of bringing people together, for God's sake.
Yes.
You bring people together and get them singing. Pete Seeger used to always go on about that. All music is political, because you bring people together and they sing together and it affects the body politic, and that's political. You know, and he was right. He was right. You get people singing together, there's a sense of empowerment comes out of that. And it's not the job of people like me, because we're doing something entirely different. But that is so bloody important to get that done. I mean, the very short-lived left turns thing that was there. When we were all involved in that, it was, you know, but the time was wrong. Circumstances were wrong, conditions were wrong for that. But I think you're right. I think the conditions are dead right now for things like that. Local groups of people just coming together and singing. You know?
And everybody's talking about how everybody wishes that left turns would come back.
I don't know that it was not the wrong time in terms of the miners' strike.
No.
Well, it was useful during that, but I mean the aftermath of that.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Find themselves vacillating as it comes along. And if there is a kind of grassroots movement of local groups singing, of festivals like the Political Song Festival in Bradford, or the Liverpool Working Class Music Festival, or whatever else we can get, it can help to provide a solid base for people like me, so that we don't wander off and have to go, you know, but it can be held feet on the ground. You know, you start wandering off and singing, somebody goes, Howie, wait a minute, what about us? You're supposed to be singing on our behalf. You're part of us, be one of us, don't wander off, you know. But in order to do that, we have to, at some point or another, provide structures like the possibility for recordings. It's dead easy now. You don't even need record companies anymore. You don't need to go in and record and have distribution. You can do it online. And this is things that the left could be looking at, that we can, you know, give people the opportunity, provide the mechanisms for them to put stuff online that are not in the commercial world. You know, that we build new structures, we build working class structures for people to perform and play. And it has to be closely linked in and rooted within what you're talking about, Eileen, about the idea of local groups of people singing. Things can grow from that. That provides a good solid base to anchor people. Yeah.
Anyone else want to come in?
It's a fantastic example is Pete Seeger's festival in the States, Clearwater, which he's been doing for 40 years, and whatever, it's 500,000 kids have taken part in that there. And here in Scotland we did try the Outsider Festival, but unfortunately that was the only really sort of festival that mixed political engagement with music and so on. It'd be great if something like that was to come up again.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you a wee story about Pete? I heard it was in Canada a year and a half ago, and a guy came up and told me the story. He said about Pete. He said, you'll like this. He said, there was an environmental concert going on, and they had Pete and half a dozen, inverted commas, superstars all on this concert. So the bus takes them down to the venue, and they get there and the venue's closed. Nobody there to open it up yet, they're too early. So they're all standing about going, oh, what are we going to do? We're far too early. What are we going to do? And Pete said, I know what we could do. We could pick up the garbage. And he got a bag and started. You're like, hello there. You know? Like, there's the difference. And I love that story, just in every sense. You know, it just captures Pete apart from anything else. You know?
Another thing that captures him is, if anybody really wants to hear a song that embodies a lot of what you're talking about, Pete Seeger has a song called Quite Early Morning, and if you go onto YouTube and get that up, in his 90s, croaking, it's the most beautiful thing you've ever heard, and it really does embody quite a lot of what we've been talking about, so I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Anyone else before we end? This is your last chance. All comments welcome. Don't hold back. No. Well, okay.
Can I go for a bite?
He's been very brave. Okay. And I suppose just to kind of end, to say that the leaflet and the poster for the series of which this evening has been a part has on it a statement about what this series seeks to provide, and it says, "The songs, theatre and poetry of working class struggle have played a key role in carrying forward the convictions and knowledge of one generation to the next. In today's struggle to defend the welfare state, the trade union movement needs that inspiration more than ever. The laughter that comes from exposing the pretenses of the great and the good, the anger that comes from understanding the origins of exploitation, the confidence that comes from solidarity, and the knowledge that the world can change." So thank you, Dick, very much, and thanks very much all of you for coming.